minutes of fire. Really excited for our guest today, one of the greatest to ever cut rope and leather, Mr. Rob Robincheck from our Akron, Ohio office and Cavalier division. Been on stage many times with Rob when he's blowing minds, revealing his infamous, now what seems like an annual tradition at this point, SE2 push reports. We're gonna peek behind the curtain today, find out what goes into all that success we see on stage. Anytime Rob references a resource that's available to us, he's either gonna throw it in the chat, share it with me after our time together today, and we'll make sure we make those available to you in our CSP community WhatsApp. So Rob, do you have any scripts, templates today that you kind of reference? Don't feel the need to cover it in detail or share it necessarily right now.
Okay.
Explanatory. We'll share it afterwards so we can spend the bulk of our time on the questions our CSP community has put together for you. So are you and your amazing beard ready to jam?
Yes, I'm ready to go and excited about sharing here.
Sweet, man. Let's do it. So I do want to thank our CSP community of our Michiana division submitting most of these questions. It would not be very fire without their help. It would be, if I was supplying the questions, it would be 60 minutes of lukewarm leftovers. So I want to specifically shout out Colin Herman, Kaiser Schwartz, Jordan Thomas, Shayla Boker, Jolene Baumeister, Olia Greyhouse, John Sasick, and Han Garrett at the buzzer for submitting questions. Appreciated a ton, guys. Let's start with some layups here. Rob, how long have you been selling Cutco?
I officially started June of 1997, which is interesting because I just did my second annual Cutco factory trip with my customers, and I get some time to spend with Jim Stitt and others. And I found out that he actually started in 1997 officially with the company too.
Great year. I think the Bulls won their last of their 6 championships then too. So I think it's a really great year. Also because I was going into the 5th grade and Mr. Montgomery was an amazing teacher. So that's good. What does your yearly sales breakdown for the year typically look like, Rob? So these guys can get an idea. What percentage like business gifts, what percentage closing, events, residential?
Yeah, so it's evolved over the years, and each year the percentage continues to get higher on business gifting. Not only my passion and excitement and growing it and needing more time and less events, but I would say at this point in time, it would be I have about 8 to 10 main events I do, traditional events. I have probably another 8 to 10 service events that I do as well. And then probably breaks down numbers wise about 70% business gifting. I would say 20% on events, and then another 10% on past customer marketing through catalogs, reach outs, holidays, promotions, things like that.
So a lot within that last 10%. A lot of subcategories that we could go toward.
Yes.
What other titles do you have in life outside of Cutco? I'm thinking dad, husband, anything like that.
Yeah. So I have 4 kids. So I got a 19-year-old that's a sophomore in college. I have one that just turned 16 at the end of July, so she's driving. So she's a junior in high school. Nice. I've got a 13-year-old son. It's an 8th grader, and then we adopted a baby girl a year ago, so she's 14 this next week, 14 months. So yeah, and so I again, being a father and taking care of my kids, is definitely top priority. And then try to do other fun stuff myself, but usually their games and events and things like that come first.
I can't, like, my 4-year-old's is our middle child right now, and she's just getting curious about things like doing the monkey bars and things like that, and that makes me nervous. So I couldn't imagine one of them driving a 1,000-pound 60-mile-per-hour vehicle on the road. So prayers for you. That's exciting. That's awesome. What's the last fun thing that you did when you weren't slinging blades?
You mean outside of a family function or something like that?
No, family, anything besides selling Cutco, what's the last fun thing that you did?
Well, what's the most fun for me is getting to go to my kids' sporting events, big into sports and doing that. So, my son just had a game on Sunday. He was a little upset because he could have had a pick six, dropped
Oh,
it, but yeah, but he plays cornerback and tight end.
that's
So
awesome. That
yeah,
end
doing
zone
well.
looked really big, I'm sure. It was all he was focused on.
I
Uh,
think so.
that's awesome, man.
But
What's
I look forward to doing every October, outside of Christmas, my favorite time of year. So I do an annual Halloween limo trip. So I take me and a group of guys. We go to different haunted houses and do that. And then I always take him to one Cleveland Browns game every year. His birthday is on Halloween, so we try to do
oh,
one
nice.
October. We got the November 5th Arizona game. And after, since he's been 6 years old, every year they lost. Every time I've taken him, they finally won last year. So
Let's
now we can maybe
go.
do a streak of how many in a row we can win.
So I've been to Brown Stadium to tailgate. I've never been in for a game, but I can imagine Halloween at the Browns on a home game would be very exciting. Uh,
Yeah,
that's awesome. What's your best year ever for CPO, Rob?
it was last year at just under 1.4 million, which
Wow.
broke down to about 916 was business gifting, and then the rest, the other layers of the business.
Okay. Awesome. And then what's something in the works right now? Maybe you're working on it, and maybe it's an order, a program, a business relationship you're really excited about. What's something right now kind of in the works we wouldn't know about yet that maybe you're really excited about?
Um, well, I'm pretty transparent, talk about as much stuff as I can out there, but I mean, there is one that I've been floating around that's pretty cool. From an order perspective, working on an opportunity for 5,000 Santoku trimmers. So that would be pretty epic, pretty exciting. But yeah, there's always something exciting in the business world that you know tends to happen, especially when you're living in that world, and we continue to see bigger and better things happen all the time. I just landed my biggest order of my career this July. 2,400 ice cream scoops, 2,400 pizza cutters on the same order. So interesting enough, it wasn't even a knife, but it was a pretty significant
Hey,
order.
we're a kitchen company. Gosh darn. Yep.
We
Um,
kitchen collection, baby. Yeah.
well, I want to get into something that I believe, from my perspective, it's catapulted you into the goat conversation when it comes to selling Cutco. And that's how you tie your family and loved ones into your goals. This question was actually submitted in some way, shape, or form by multiple people in our community. I've watched you time and time again, kind of whether it's accepting an award or a push week trophy, and it feels like you always have the strongest why tied into your goals, that are really driving your daily actions for the contest or for the year. Can you speak to that for a little bit? Like what's your process like, not just making a goal that would benefit your family, but really tying them into and involving them with your goals?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's really important is, you have your why. So, what is something that keeps you, no matter how, early you get up in the morning, how hard you work all day. But again, none of that means anything unless you get to spend the time with them. So there's certain stretches that, they may not see you for hours or maybe, a few days here and there, especially during, again, the SC2 push. But I think tying in a fun activity or something they can be part of. So, recently it's been great because we do the SC2 now, at the water park at Kalahari. And so that's part of the deal is if I hit my goal, then again, they know that they get to come to the event, celebrate, and that's something that they love doing too, but we get to do it together. And so for me, it's pushing me harder and harder. And for them, it's driving them instead of saying, hey, dad, why don't you, hang out with me tonight? or this weekend or whatever, it's like, hey dad, what have you sold? What are you at your goal yet? Have you hit it yet? Like, I'm excited, and so not only with my wife, with my kids, it's not only sharing with them your goals, but tying them into an activity of that everybody gets to celebrate and enjoy the payout, if you will.
Mm.
And so that's what, again, is an additional driver during that contest period. But throughout the year, it's what I'm able to provide for them, what I'm able to do for them. So things that my parents couldn't do, maybe not necessarily afford when I was growing up, from being able to help with, my first car or help with college and different things like that. I don't believe in giving them everything, but I do believe in helping and then having them work hard for everything. And so, for my daughter, able to help her, get her first car in college and be able to get around and then provide an opportunity that she can get a job that she can drive to now instead of just being on campus.
Right.
So, same thing, with anything that I'm doing and providing for them is, helping with her college payments and stuff like that. So, it just, again, throughout the year at certain points, there's always something that's involving my why of being able to give back and help. I always have a certain cause or something I want to donate and give back to. That, again, is my driving force. So when someone figures out what not only drives them, but then they tie those people in and then they have some type of celebration, if you will, or some type of payoff or some type of gathering that you get to celebrate with them, I think enhances that whole experience. And then again, is a constant reminder of like a daily activity that, I'm not going to let them down. Just like for me, I don't want to let the region down, and Jeff and everybody that's part of the greatest region, the Midwest. So, but my family, again, having all that combined in there, just makes it such a burning fire that the flame will never go out, no matter how tired I am, what kind of day someone buys, doesn't buy, none of that matters because the end goal, the vision is always there.
Man, your two things that stick out to me. One, your Midwest region pride is the strongest. I mean, when I hear you say things like I've seen you on calls before talk about I don't want to let fill in the blank down. You mean it. Like I can tell how you say it. You really, really mean it. Second thing that sticks out to me is I think something that has become very it's normal for you. It's something you've done many, many times now is tying your family into a goal. If I'm never done this before and I'm like, okay, how do I even start that conversation? Like, let's say it's a significant other. It's like, hey, I don't care about your work life, but I love what it affords us to be able to do, but that's fine. That's over there. What's that conversation like initially when you have this idea that, hey, I want to include my spouse or include my kids or include my parents or include somebody that matters a lot to me in these goals? What does that initial conversation look like? How does it maybe look different with your significant other than it does with your kids?
Yeah, significant other, I mean, it's just like sharing our dreams and what we want to accomplish and what we want to do.
Mm.
So there has to be give and take. There has to be sacrifices on both sides of things. So, her sacrifice is, maybe doing more family duty and or maybe, driving the kids here and there, getting to school
Mm.
in the morning that I normally do, something like that. But it's like, okay, so with our sacrificing maybe a little bit of time here and there, that provides us the opportunity to maybe do some more travel because now we can afford to do that. We can obviously make sure our retirement, fund is continuing to be there. So when we, the kids do get older and it's just the two of us, that we will have more opportunities to be able to do fun activities. Again, she's a very generous person, a very kind heart, and but so we can donate more, and that excites her because now we can give back to others, which is another piece. And
Mm.
so, and then again, I always love to do something, that she also obviously likes nice things, which is great in perspective. And then, so the good thing is, hey, what would be exciting for you as a payoff as well? And so there's been different things that she's, that I've been able to get for her that again is very exciting on that front
And
too.
it
So I
sounds
think
like you guys
just
are meeting and talking about your dreams and goals way before you talk about how Cutco plays into that. Like that's something you guys are already on the same page with. And then it's like, okay, cool. How can I use the business to be able to do that? What I noticed is too, like when you have a huge SE2 push, it truly is a team effort that it sounds like your wife is also like, hey, I'm taking one for the team as well, stepping up. What in this case you said it was at home with the kids or whatever the case may be, like not possible for you to do your end with that. But it sounds like there's no like guilt in that. There's no like, all right, Rob's gonna go sell a lot, so I have to do this. Like, hey, we chose this together. We have these dreams and goals together. It sounds like retirement for you guys is important. Getting to travel when the kids are all out of the house, getting a chance to give more. Those are things she's also tied into. So her stepping up is at the same time that you are. That was really insight for me. Is it's hey, there's a dreams and planning conversation way beyond and way before Cutco with you and her. Um,
yeah,
let's
this is a communication. The communication is extremely important, right? Because again, if you're both in agreement to this, and then you both stick to the plan, then again, there's no resentment. People are not upset. It's like, oh, okay, I understand that, and this is what we're accomplishing, and this is what we're doing, and then obviously she's seeing the benefit of that. And that was a very difficult conversation, Brett, when I came back to Cutco full time in 2018 because I was giving up a lot with no guarantee. Right. But
yeah.
if I said, if I'm doing the work, I'm mapping it out, here's what I envision. I never envisioned as big as it is today, as quick as it was.
Yeah.
But now, the vision is so big. But yeah, so as long as the communication, we're sticking to the plan, we're both in agreement, then it's a success formula right there.
You left for a few years, kind of always sold Cutco on the side, but you left for a few years to pursue work outside of Cutco. And you referenced coming back in 2018 and there being a little bit of nervousness, maybe some butterflies around coming back and not having maybe a salary that you did or not having any guarantee. What did that decision come down to for you? And after you made that decision, was there ever a point during your first year coming back selling full time where you're like, oh crap, I messed up? What was that like?
Yeah, no, it was a journey for sure because again, I was doing it part time when I came back to do it, a little bit more active in 2011, and they did that all the way to 2018. And I would say, there was two big contributing factors that really made the decision to come back full time, something that I was ready and willing to do. And one is just with corporate America, you're fed a whole bunch of promises and it looks great on paper. And then when you actually put it into action and play it out, it's never what it always seems to be, at least what I found. And I worked several different corporate jobs, several different sizes of companies, so I got to explore Fortune 500 to smaller shops all across the board, and all was again a completely different atmosphere and mentality and culture from what Cutco and what I experienced. And when I said, you know what? There's no passion here. There's no excitement. I'm just waking up in the morning just to make a paycheck for my family, but I'm not excited about what I'm doing. I'm not excited about what I'm contributing and how I'm giving back and how I'm helping others. And, Cutco is always, people always still reaching out and, hey, whenever you're ready, we'll be ready and we're here for you. And I think one of the other triggers outside of that was my daughter, who's now 19, who helped me at many shows. And the over Labor Day weekend in 2017, she was working a fair with me. And at the end of the fair, she's like, Dad, why don't you do this full time? You have so much fun doing this. You should just do that. And I'm thinking, why not? So I mapped it out that fall. And again, I reached out to all the executives and like the people that, again, that I wanted to let them know that, hey, if I'm going to come back, I want to be able to give back to this community. I want to be able to help this community. And, Jeff was the first person. And obviously shared with Justin what, I wanted to do. I also shared with John Kane and others. And so, the nice thing is they open, open up their minds, their hearts, and just welcome me back and said, hey, we're here to support you. Obviously, Jeff with throwing out, big numbers himself. He was like, you could sell 500,000. At that point, I only sold 160, 70,000 prior to that. And I was like, thinking he's crazy. What is he talking about? And no one in the Midwest region, which people may know or not know, but prior to, other than John Ruhlin, no one had ever sold over 300,000 in the Midwest region prior to 2018. And I was like, other regions are doing this. We have so much talent and so much skill set, and these people are so amazing in our region. Why aren't we doing that? I said, I think it's just them seeing that 4-minute mile broken, them seeing people in our region saying, okay, well, they got the State Fair of Texas, they got LA County Fair, they've got bigger and better opportunities, and it's a better area. And it's like, no, that's BS. That's not the case. We can do bigger and better things here. And so that was kind of a mission as well, is like showing the model, proving the model, and saying that, it can be done here, it can be done bigger, it can be done better. And that was exciting. And I think you may remember as well, is after that first year of me doing 365,000 that year and saying it can be done. Now, obviously, so many people have done that.
It was a domino effect, immediate. I mean, within I think 2 or 3 years, we had multiple people over 500 grand, let alone 2 or 3. It was an immediate, like, it is to your point about the mile. Once somebody does, it's like, oh, it is possible. Oh, it is possible in the Midwest. So it absolutely reinvigorated and breathed life into our CSP team in the Midwest. And it made people go, oh, wow, I'm going to look at this a little bit differently. And kind of your point about Jeff speaking, hey, you can sell 500 grand in a year, something that nobody in the Midwest had ever done. I want to talk to you about something else that hasn't happened is, are the Browns ever going to win a Super Bowl?
What's crazy is that prior to Super Bowls, they were the best team ever with Jim Brown and winning championship after championship, but none of it really counts, right? Because it wasn't an official Super Bowl. And yes, the Super Bowl came to be, again, a lot of struggle, a lot of pain. But every year they are very devoted fans of just getting kicked in the teeth, but still getting back up again and still ready to go. And that's how I feel some days with Cutco is, it's not easy, but it's not hard. And it's hard work will pay off at the end of the day, and building up your foundation strong, and then again continue to build after each year and each year. It's like at the point that's why I will never leave this company. That's why this is home. That's why I feel extremely comfortable. There's a lot of great opportunities out there, but there's no opportunity like this that I feel that is so loving community, a ability to be able to live the life and no cap, no ceiling of what you can get. Like when I was working these corporate jobs, they're like, no ceiling. It's like, no, there is a ceiling. And no matter how hard I'm working and I'm selling more, but still making less, none of this adds up. And with Cutco, it's like, nope, keep on selling more, be the first $2 million rep, and we will pay you out, and we will make sure you're taken care of.
I love how you have used the Browns' demise, but also their fan base's ability to get back up after falling to be your life driving. Yes, we are getting back up. We're making this happen. When was your first quantum leap? And what were you spoke about a little bit about, hey, I decided to go full time, popped to 300. I don't know what the rise to over $1 million ended up being, but when was the first one where you're like, well, that was the one that really set me on the path I'm on now? What were some moments or actions or maybe decisions you made that were responsible for that? Because if I'm a rep and I'm sitting here, I'm at 200 or 300 grand for the year. What do you think caused it? Like, what was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just seeing that by following a system and getting on a program and knowing that even though I was taking for the business gifting side of things a few steps back, I knew what the future could be. Like I said, I didn't know how fast and how quick it could be, but I could see that happening. I think the biggest light bulb that went off for me was during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, a lot of reps, obviously they were focused on events and other things, and a lot of them where their businesses were suffering. Well, that year I was like, okay, well, what do I got to do? I got to pivot and spend more time on the business gifting front. And so what I did was in that that year, I basically was spending more time with businesses, and I accelerated, added more fuel to the fire that year than any other year. And so, like I said, when other rep sales were way down, that was the year that I jumped. I think that was year from 500,000 to over 800,000, and was number two in the nation behind Curtis. And then from that point on, had never looked back. So from 2000, from 2020, basically, those next few years really kind of pushed the needle much faster and much quicker. But knowing that it was working, knowing that again it was initially a little bit of a slower burn, but again, I knew that after that year three, that third year was that pivotal year that a lot of things just really started to snowball. And then now it's really picked up because again, I created the strong foundation, but then each year I was cultivating those relationships, building on those relationships, and then seeing the fruits of those labors after that, and just in a 3 year period. And then now it's, a few years later, and now, it's going to be next year, 2 million in sales. So
Reminds me of a quote that I heard. I want to say it's called the Rom's rule, to never let a serious crisis go to waste. So for you, it was, okay, my event business is going to suffer. I'm still going to find a way to make. And then, hey, does the business gifting program for you ever actually become what it is if it's not for that season that we all lived with COVID? I think that speaks to your mentality about a lot of solutions where you're going to be solution oriented. If you were starting over business gifting all over again, it was brand new program. What's one thing that you would do differently if you were starting over with business gifting all over again?
Just spend more time on the than I did first year. I was kind of just dipping my toes in. Yep. And just saying, it was a lot of things with the transition, right? It was coming back full time, knowing I had to sell a certain amount just to break even of what I was guaranteed with my base and salary and all this other things and benefits and things like that. But if I go back and say, okay, instead of 8 hours a week, I would have probably jumped it maybe a few more hours added onto it. Because that year, like we talked about, I could have folded or again, just pivoted and do more. And I ended up doing more. And that's why, again, it would still be great where I'm at now, but it just would have been further ahead. And just trusting that if I'm doing these things, I know that they can work. Outside of those things, the just putting the time and the focus is just determining that this is a serious layer that I want to build. I knew it was a layer that I felt confident in and I seen success. I just needed to prove the model that it could work the way we were doing it, right? Compared to the way maybe John Rule has done it and things like that. And then I think too is early on, just more awareness, asking every person I came in contact at a traditional event, at a networking event, anytime I'm talking to anybody, just having the awareness to continue to talk to them about, hey, you own or run a business. Let me tell you more, and then feeling very good about that. I would have scaled up my display items, and had that in the collection sooner and faster and had more to be able to show and pitch. I would have probably spent a little bit more time on my business pitch, making sure that I'm not only being confident, but creating interest for a business owner. It's so crazy that you can have those first couple steps and show it to them until you actually pitch it and tell them a little bit more and feel confident how we would pitch a Cutco kitchen. Yep. And feel good about that. Then once they realize that, they're like, wow, this is the greatest idea ever. Why didn't I think of that? And I'm like, well, that's, here to help you with that. So I would think those things early on would have been critical to continue to do more of that, knowing that, okay, I might be taking a few steps back, but knowing that, I'm going to take hundreds forward.
I know you probably have a script of it, but would love to hear, this was asked by a couple different CSP members, of like your 30-second elevator business gift pitch. If you could just rattle it off without, I know there's probably a script, but what is it? If I'm just, hey, you see an opportunity, what does that look like?
Yeah. So if I'm running into a business owner and I identify they own or run a business, and, again, I just want to ask one or two quick questions before I dive into it, just to see if it warrants my time or their time. After I identify they own or run a business, I'm like, oh, do you do any gifting? Or have you done any gifting for end of year, for employees, customers? Really just kind of identify that. And then after those things just check off real quick, right? Yes, I want to run a business. I have X amount of employees and I've done this or that. I'm like, great. Well, just so you know, you may not be aware, but we've had a business gifting program for the last 20 some years where we actually do a high-end employee and a customer appreciation program. And just so you know, Mr. Customer, whoever may be, whatever industry, we work with hundreds of companies, all kinds of sizes, very similar to yours, different industries and industries like yours as well, where we help them with relationship gifting solutions, right? And your first thought, you may be wondering why, high-end handmade kitchen cutlery works in your industry, right? Well, again, our products are universal because everyone eats and cooks. Very simple. That's why, a landscaping or a company, a roofing company, siding, anything along those lines, construction just still makes sense. So what we do, just so you're aware, is we build and customize programs that help your employees, customers, partners, suppliers, and vendors feel special. Okay, and we just do that through artifacts that are practical, best of class, used all the time, and sit on your employees or customers' countertops, which keep you top of mind forever. Lastly, companies have told us that this is more effective than what they usually have given in the past, which is again more like trinkets, mugs, gift cards, bonuses, jackets, hats, polos. Basically, all the things that other companies are doing for employees or customers and not really hitting the mark because those gifts are used once, never used or regifted. Would this be something that you would be interested in exploring or talking about further? Boom. And that's kind of along those lines. It has some
my brain was
nuances.
kind of checking off each step that you asked the initial question to find out, are they a true qualified lead? Then it was, okay, let me give some credibility. We've been doing this for over 20 years. Let me eliminate some concerns in advance. Let me tell you what you're already doing and why it doesn't work. And it makes complete sense why that initial conversation, it sounds like as long as they're a qualified lead, then you're going to do that trial close of like, hey, let me at least get them to say, yes, I want to learn more about it. And then like, what is that? Is there an initial phone call? Will you set up a meeting right there? What does that next step usually look like if they go, yeah, let's talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So then if you're at the booth or with them, I've got better over the years of trying to get a close right then and there. I'm just like, oh, would you have a few minutes right now? I can dive into some more options or, dive more into the program. And I have a few more questions for you. And then boom, if they do, then what I'm doing is I'm asking more of the 8 critical questions and diving in a little bit deeper. And then if they are the main decision maker, don't need anybody else part of the process, then I'm going to do a close right then and there. And so either I'm going to go for the full close or I'm going to do like a partial close or even a pilot program, which is a pilot program, just getting them started with a minimum quantity of 10, letting them know that, hey, it takes some time, especially a new project, to put your logo together, digitize it, for the engraving and the template and the proof process. But yeah, if you're good with that, we can get started. Then my final drop down at the booth would be them getting a sample, them paying for the sample, me creating it, at least getting things started. So if there's a high level of interest, then I can present it to whoever else that needs to be part of that decision. The last drop down is, hey, it seems like you still have a lot of interest. Would it make sense for me to, pick up the sample on my dime, but for you to visually be able to see this, and then let's set the next meeting when that comes in with you, your other partner, whoever it may be. So I'll try to get really good and focused, selling right there, which I've got better over the last couple of years. Did my first industry event this year, so you can sell a lot right there at the booth. But the goals in the follow-up, and so the next steps would be, if all those things don't play out, but usually a sample does, as I say, okay, great. So I try to schedule a week later. unless I know that the timing they're not open to it, right? So if I have a show, I'm heavy on in the spring with my events. So then, they may not be in the right headspace or timing until the summer, maybe until the fall to look at a gifting solution plan. I always try to push them sooner. That's why I do the Christmas in July, even though they may not need it until Christmas time. There's a lot of ways we can do that, but I will try to usually get a meeting the next week, if possible. If not, again, I'm doing a drip with them. So I'm sending communication for the next few months, keeping in contact, maybe creating a sample and staying in front of them. So there's not a 2, 3, 4 month gap of when I communicate or talk to them next. So usually within 48 hours, my rule of thumb is to make sure they get some type of email, basically communicating what we talked about, giving some general information, a few attachments, and then typically at that point, I'll have them send a PDF or JPEG of their logo, just really whether I'm making a logo or not, just to see their engagement, see how excited they are. When I meet with somebody and I ask them that, and before I leave their office, if I already got an email of that, I know, man, this person's really excited about what we talked about and wants to continue to move through the process. So again, but yeah, the email usually within 48 hours, if they're ready to engage in a process sooner and later, if they don't respond to the email within about another 48 hours, I'm doing a phone call, a text, and always leaving a voicemail. And the voicemail and the text and everything would typically be something very vague, but just in general, like, hey, this is Scutco Rob, met you at XYZ event. You expressed a lot of interest in what we were talking about, gifting appreciation program. Love to, explore it further. Give me a call, whatever, leave my number there. So, but I have a lot of people that will just by the voicemail will call me back within, 24, 48 hours. If there's definitely a high level of interest, but I always say a good rule of thumb too is a lack of interest or a lack of response does not mean a lack of interest. Business owners are different than the residential. We feel if we don't close them right then and there, we're chasing, they're not interested. They just don't want to tell us no. And so, but they don't, respond back to us. Business owners, there could be a high level of interest, but lower on the priority list. They've got all these other tasks and to do things. And sometimes, even though we feel like we should be number one on their list, we may not be. But when the timing's right and we're staying pleasantly persistent, then we're going to get the deal. And keep in mind, the biggest thing is put yourself in the shoe of a business owner. If you are on top of things and doing a 5 to 12 touch process, and again, our orders are much larger, so this is worth your time as long as you've identified what the opportunity could be, is they're seeing you as like their potential sales rep. And so what's nice about them seeing that is they then will say, if my sales rep was like this person, I would want them to be on my sales team. And so I'm going to do business with this person because, again, I would love, my sales reps to work this hard or be this on top of things. And so surprising knowing those different industries of what people do that they'll never even follow up. It's incredible, right? Even companies that I'm doing some personal work at my house or something, and they get a quote, and I don't even hear back from them, and I have to reach back out to them. It's crazy, how that other salespeople work. It's like if you just do the minimum, you're much farther ahead than anybody else. It's crazy.
I think that's something too that it's like on a normal, like a residential basis, we might feel like, oh, am I following up too much? But with a business, they kind of need it. They've got a lot of plates spinning. You're right. They could be completely interested, but then that's what that sixth ping goes, oh, wow, now we need to do it. What was, I don't know if the word struggles right or challenge, but what was something that you had to mindset wise change going from residential or booth business to your business gift clients what could have shortened that learning curve for you? Because it is two very different processes. Like residentially,
Yeah.
it's 45 minutes and we're getting a yes or a no and exactly what they want placed in the order. These could take months, if not, I'm sure you've had some take years that you've done marketing to people. What do you wish you would have known, or what was a mindset shift, or what was a challenge going from residential to business gifts?
Yeah, I think two things. One is the process, realizing that yeah, I can get a one call close, but again, that if I just go through this process and I do three meaningful interactions to a sale, um, that I'm going to get the deal, and to not push them too much, but to be on top of it and make sure that I'm providing value each step along the way. And so when I say three meaningful interactions, is like talking to them initially at an event could be one, meeting with them either face to face or over Zoom or over a phone call, whatever, could be two. And then the third would be, typically closing the deal. Now I've been able to move it from 3 to 2 closes because the question I forgot to ask early on is, I would ask, hey, are you the decision maker? And they were like, yeah, I'm the decision maker. But I never asked the question, who else is involved in the process, without
Mm.
making them feel inferior, making them feel like, yeah, no, I make decisions. But then I'm like, instead of just saying, well, is there other decision makers? I just said, is there other people that you ask questions or that you run this by, or that is part of this process when you're making these decisions? And that way they feel like, wow, this person's like making understanding my world and how I work in my world. And so
Mm.
by doing that, I've been able to get it down from 3 to 2, because usually the second like actual meeting or the sit down or walkthrough, they would be like, oh, I love this, let me talk to so and so. And I'm like,
I mean,
geez.
I
Like,
know three to
again,
two doesn't sound like a lot for those of you listening. That is a 33% decrease in the amount of time and effort Rob has to put into closing a deal. That's massive. If you think about closing 100 of these a year, you just cut it down from 300 meetings to 200 meetings. Now I've got that is massive. What are for somebody that's new to this, Rob, you said, when you asked the question, I love how you frame it so that way it doesn't cause them to feel like you're questioning how much power they have. It's, hey, who else do you
yep.
usually include in this type of stuff? What are the type of titles for those individuals that you're typically finding are the decision makers when it comes to business gifting? Is there any trend in companies having the same titles of people that are involved, whether it's a VP of this or do people have is it HR? Who's involved in this typically?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I would say it also depends on the size of the organization.
Mm.
So again, a lot of people think they have to be talking to huge companies to have big opportunities. Honestly, most of my companies I sell to are 5 to 50 man type of companies. Those companies typically, I'm talking to the owner, or again, if they have an assistant, they're involved in there as well. Um, and so those are probably then the COO, Chief Operating Officer, is usually involved in those decisions as well. Sometimes the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, but again, it's usually the owner, their partner, their assistant, sometimes a lot of times a spouse that's involved too, that again, they run ideas or thoughts by. As you get into larger organizations, that's when again, some more layers and some more titles and things like that come into play. HR certainly comes into play, the human resource side of things. But yeah, and then sometimes, like the big company I sold to, they actually have two people that are part of their gifting appreciation team. So they actually have a certain department for that. And that's what's great is like once you get this opportunity in the bigger companies, is you
Mm.
can actually prospect deep and wide within those organizations, which again, the big deal I sold was just one piece of the big piece of the pie, because they have anniversary program that they do for the employees and do a different program outside of a gifting program. They do a bank, they do like a summer get together that they do. So there's so many different gifting options that if you understand all of them and all the pieces and all the players, then you can literally go from one to the next, the next. Like a couple of people on my team are dealing with some big, large corporations, one of them being FedEx. He got one piece of the pie And now he can use that as leverage to be able to not only find other contacts within an organization, but be able to bandwagon effect and talk about that project you did with this different department that you can dive from there.
There's
Another guy
already
with
the
John Deere.
trust. There's already
Yeah.
the trust. There's
Yes,
already
exactly.
man, that
Yep.
that type of referral to that means so much more than yeah, so and so, my buddy also owns a business. It's like that makes so much sense. My gears are going. I can imagine those interested in business gifting on the call are like, oh my gosh. You can, when I hear somebody like a Jeff Bry go, business gifting is the biggest, largest area of opportunity in our entire company. I'm beginning to really understand, like, based on that comment, the possibilities with this. What do you think, you personally, Rob, what does your Cutco business look like 5 years from now? When you dream about that, when you think about that, what are some things you think about?
Yeah, I think a lot of exciting things. One other thing too is you just mentioned about the Jeff Bryan, the largest area, is a company believes that, knows that as well. Jim
Hmm.
Stitt every year tells me it's the only controllable thing he has. All the different programs that we have, federal government could shut down at any point. Real estate impacted by the economy more so than business owners, right? Shows we all know that not only can they just go away one day and shut down, but they're so dependent on the crowd, the weather, all these outside factors. Well, business gifting is the only controllable thing that we have that, again, we can control how many business prospects we see and talk to and all that. But my vision is, and I predicted this at net in net 2020, actually before the pandemic happened, is that I would be the first $2 million rep in 2025. Well, I've accelerated that to next year will be the first $2 million rep. This year I'll do over $1 million just in one layer, which will, to my knowledge, be the first just in one layer business gifting. But if I'm looking 5 to 10 years down the road, honestly, I mean, I could see numbers getting higher and higher, but my vision the next 5 to 10 years is to get more people to sell 1 million and 2 million would fire me up more than my own success or my own numbers. And so I continue to see uh, more consulting, more teams. This whole gifting process in the company is going to be changing. There's actually going to be an announcement this week sent out about the first ever summit combining CGC and business gifting reps. So look for that announcement. Some of you guys may get that invite
Oh,
as
we're
long
on the
as you're
inside
already.
track. We got an early announcement. I like it.
Yeah, so they're going based on it's the first year is going to be, exclusive, whereas 125 capped. So this thing's going to fill up real quick. But again, they're taking who sold business gifts or realtor gifts, and they're starting there, right, with the invites and stuff. But the certification is going to be happening and all that. But I just see more training, more education, more support, more resources, more help for the community to help you guys all scale this opportunity. And whether you're as passionate about me, about business gifting that I am, you don't have to be, but as long as you see that this should be something you should have a knowledge about, feel comfortable about, and be able to take advantage of opportunities as they arise when you run into them, and knowing how to initiate the conversations, navigate the conversations, and close more deals so that, again, you're not stalling and things are flowing much quicker, and your average order goes from 1,000 to 3,000 to 5, 10,000, and we start to get more $100,000 opportunities out there.
I by the way, I think there's some people in the audience today that want to be on that list of people you're trying to get to 1 million and 2 million. So when you get the flood of emails for coaching, that's probably who. What is, I know some reps, when they first get into this, they're intimidated because it's a business owner. I think it's easy to forget that's just another human being, especially when many that when they get into business gifting are going to be in their early 20s. They haven't experienced success at what they would think is a high level yet. Maybe they are worried about what are they going to think, or why would they take advice from me? What does building rapport look like with a business owner, Rob? Does it look any different than what you learned as a residential rep?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, you just gotta. Sometimes we get intimidated because they're business owner or they're managing multiple, people, or multiple divisions, or their company sold X amount and stuff. They're just normal everyday people. And, again, I think just making it more about them than us is always a great idea. And the simple, quick things from a rapport building standpoint is just asking about their business. Hey, tell me about your business. Hey, how many years you've been around? I do that for two reasons. One is just to congratulate them on years that they've been around. If they're around more than 2-3 years, that's more than most small to medium sized businesses, believe it or not, that fail within the first 3 years. But then I also find an anniversary. Like if they've been around 10, 15, 20 years, I'm like, oh my gosh, 20 years. What are you doing to celebrate your anniversary? And then it's like ding, 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 the light bulbs go off and like, cool, I can help you with that, right? And then the other things too is what has helped them be so successful. And the things that they usually tell me is like, oh, we have a phenomenal product, or we have great customer service. All the things that resonate with Cutco that we are all about. And then I tie those into the things that have helped them be so successful for them. And so I think with just those initial conversations, just asking more about them, their business, how many years they've been around, what's helped them be more successful, will start to then they realize like, wow, this person really wants to understand more about me and my world. So then when I actually pitch a program or an idea or a plan, then it comes from like them giving me the information I need to be able to relay that back to them. So, but I would say, there's three levels. If you had to break it down, three levels of like what I found from when I first started to today, of like what helped me scale the quickest, cut down my learning curve, and be able to sell more in a shorter period of time. And I would say, level one, you guys, just for the ones on the call that are just dipping their toes in, getting started, maybe had a few success, but, just not anything consistent so far, is, again, you got to determine if this layer is something you're serious about, and building and focusing on, at least, spending some consistent amount of time. 8 hours a week is usually how, again, year one, when I started at. Awareness. Ask every single person you talk to, own or run a business, and just start to fill that pipeline, right? Your display. Make sure from the initial company on Vector Connect, like displays and samples and stuff like that, have, a few items, a two-piece set and a three-piece set, and some gadgets, accessories, and then also some hunting and fishing stuff that have some different logos, engravings, some different options that the pieces are doing the selling for you. Your 60-second pitch needs to be spot on, needs to be confident and creating interest. 8 critical questions, which again, I'll share all this stuff with Brett. He can get out to you guys, that you make sure you're asking those questions, and then understanding what your opportunity is, how big the opportunity is, and where do you go next with it. Following up the leads, again, got to be golden. A lot of industry reps spend thousands of dollars doing these industry events, get hundreds of leads, don't even follow up with them. What's the point? Always be filling your pipeline through events or your past customers, sending them texts and emails, finding out who in your database of your maybe 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000 customers you may have already that you didn't ask, that own or run a business right now and are needing your help to support them. And then going through Vector Connect, watching videos, downloading resources. That's level one. Level two, real quick, is getting good at asking everyone where they work. So the next step for me is you'll run into people at the booth that may not own or run a business, but they work somewhere. They should, hopefully, because they can afford to buy Cutco. Ask them a couple more questions. Oh, does your company ever do gifting throughout the year or the end of the year? Great. Okay. What have they done? I just want to understand it's been something at least of a $50 price point or higher. And then ask them, well, who's in charge of that program? Do you know who the owner is, or who would be the person I would reach out to? Great. And I took it one step further. How well do you know that person? Could you send an email or text and connect me with that person, and then just do a handoff, and I can run from there? Upgrade. Level two, again, is upgrade your samples with your personal. So if you sold a deal, you should have a sample of that to be able to share a story sell. So now you can share, and they can see, here's what I did with this company. Here's why they did it, why it's been so successful, and why they love it. And it was for their employees or customers, whoever it may be. And then fill your pipeline with different opportunities outside of events. You can start to get into networking events. I'm part of a chamber. Even if you spend a little time, you get a list of hundreds of companies that are part of that chamber that are leads for you. If your companies that you sell a business gift to that are giving to their customers, they a lot of times provide a list for me. That's more leads, but I'm building my pipeline and get good at old school asking for referrals. Like referrals are free. So again, I'm doing it very effectively because again, it's free, which is great, but also there's that connection of, hey, your buddy who thought we should connect actually loves the program I put together for him, thought you might want to hear about, what I do for
Sounds like
companies like you.
everyone is a lead or a source for a lead. And I'm going to turn over.
Leads are everywhere.
Yep. Yep.
Leads are everywhere. And then level 3, the last thing would be
Yep.
level 3 is again, after you did all those steps, which are all free and like resources and tools that are all available for you and I'll make available for you, is number 3, now you're past those levels. Get a mentor is excellent in business gifting. I know a few people. So go ahead.
In 60 seconds or less, what's something I should have asked you today that would have helped our team?
You definitely asked a lot of great questions. Wow, that's a kind of interesting question. I mean, I usually ask the business owners, is there anything else that we didn't cover, didn't go over today? And usually kind of racks their brain because usually pretty thorough. But I would just say that, why question, why would you ever want to not capitalize on this opportunity? Why would you ever not want to understand or know more about this opportunity? Because again, it's something that whether you do a little or a lot, it's something that, again, if it falls into your lap, instead of just saying, great, I'm glad you own a business. Okay, let me sell something for your house. It's like, hey, I want to be able to have an opportunity to sell a business owner. So I would just say, asking yourself, why haven't you done more, and what's holding you back from continuing to pursue this and make this a stronger layer of your business that, whether you feel confident or not, that you can build that confidence very quickly. And there's enough resources to help you guys get more success with this layer.
Rob, seriously, thank you so much. We're in such a unique situation where no one's required to give back when they've, gotten up to the ladder of the successful status that you have in Cutco, but most of our leaders do. And you lead that group fiercely. I mean, you are just always ready and willing to give back to the field, to give back to people that are brand new, people that have been here forever, people in a rut, people that are already succeeding. And that doesn't go unnoticed, man. It means the world to us that you made the time for us today. So seriously, thank you so much. This has been great.
No, thank you guys. And I just think with that point is that I want to honor and respect the people that have helped me early on in my career and still help me today to get to where I'm at. So if we don't all do that for each other, that you're not serving a higher purpose, because again, think about you're at where you're at because other people that have had your back and that supported you. So yes, I'm always willing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Guys, don't miss our upcoming CSP Hot Hand interviews. We got Joffrey Grimes on October 16th and Jess Miser on October 17th. Those Q&A forms will come out for you to be able to submit shortly. Thank you to those of you who submitted your questions. For Rob, I can't take credit for any of them. We only use questions provided by the field. Besides the Cleveland Browns question, that was from Justin Neefus. I asked, what's something I could ask Rob? One we didn't get to that maybe someday. Don't answer it now. If we ever have Rob back, he has to answer, does the length of his beard change based on his next meeting with his Amish clients? That's for next time, part 2.
Okay.
It's been great, man. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.